Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today we got a brand new announcement from DC. This is finally here, the James Gunn announcement of like what his big reboot is going to be for the DC universe, which of course everyone's been wondering for like 2 months now. And it came out today, and yes, I have already seen this video and I've already like kind of shared some of my thoughts, but I thought, hey, let's go through this again. Let's go through it step by step, because honestly, the way that James Gunn words some of these things is left kind of vague. So let's go ahead and just try to analyze everything that's actually going on and that was actually announced. So here we go.
Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. And it's one of, our jobs, mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation.
Okay, so that first thing there, we have heard that before. We heard that a couple months ago, I think, when David Zaslav actually took over, and he kind of made the point that that's what he wants. He wants everything to be one actual connected universe, very much how, Marvel. We got the Marvel, or actually, I would say it's even more like Star Wars than Marvel, to be honest. I think James Gunn himself actually made this comparison, because, with Star Wars, of course, we have our movies and our shows and our games and our comics and our books, and it's all canon with each other. It's all supposed to be, in the same exact universe, same timeline. It's all happening together, right? So that's essentially what he's doing here, and I love that idea, because that is one thing that DC has kind of sorely been lacking, is that like you had your CW shows, and then you had your animated solo movies, direct to video movies, and then you had like Teen Titans Go and other animated TV shows, and then like everything was just so separate, and it was like it was just a big mess, because some things would be awesome and then some things would be horrible, and it's like I don't even know. DC's just this cluster right now. So let's keep going.
That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds.
Okay. That's another very important thing. And also, again, similar to Star Wars, how Star Wars now has the banner of Legends. So anything before the Disney reboot is labeled Legends. They're doing a very similar thing here, except the main difference is that theirs will be ongoing. So it's essentially, imagine if Star Wars came out with a brand new Legends book. It's like, okay, it's still labeled Legends, but it is a new book. So it's the same thing they're doing with, like you said, the Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman is continuing, the Joker is continuing, Teen Titans Go is continuing. So you know what? That's really cool. I think that's like what's best for the brand, because don't cancel things that are actually working. Like people enjoyed that Batman and that Joker, and Teen Titans Go, a lot of people do enjoy that show. I don't watch it, but a lot of people do. So label it Elseworlds, make very clear defining lines what is and is not canon by putting the label Elseworlds on it. Now that's going to become important in just a few seconds here, because he's very, very clear that those things are getting the label Elseworlds, and he's about to mention some other projects that it gets a little vague, but he doesn't say they're labeled Elseworlds, so that can only really mean one thing, I guess. So here we go.
Outside of the mainstream DCU continuity. Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well. That moves directly.
Okay, so yeah, a trailer had just come out, and he's talking about how Shazam has always been kind of part of its own thing, which it's arguable, because we do have a very into the first movie, we have Henry Cavill's Superman sort of showing up. We don't see his actual face, but we do see his suit, his logo. So there's going to be some small issues like that, and of course we see like toys that are of the Zack Snyder verse Justice League. So like there's going to be some weird stuff of like, well, how does that make sense, right? And this is kind of the main thing, but he's very clear that this movie is not labeled Elseworlds. It would have been so easy for him to right now say that's an Elseworlds movie, it still is just its own thing. It's, you know, like he could have made that very clear, and he chose not to. So, for all intents and purposes, it seems that these upcoming 4 movies he's about to talk about, Shazam starting with, they count in a way. You know, they're not being labeled Elseworlds. So let's keep going.
Into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love that resets the entire DC universe.
Okay, so again, The Flash, which obviously the whole Ezra Miller situation, very controversial, but it's been rumored for a long time that it's essentially Flashpoint and it resets the whole universe. Like he just said that. He just said it resets the whole universe, but also he's seen it and he really loves it. And by the way, that is another consistent rumor, is that, like, despite all the Ezra Miller of it all, the movie itself is supposedly really, really good. You know, which I think is the only explanation for why Warner Brothers isn't gonna just throw it away or something. Is like, it's actually a really great movie. So it's like, what do you do? I guess. Anyways, so if The Flash is working as the actual sort of Nexus reboot point, you know, I think essentially the idea here is that because Shazam is continuing off of the past movies that it connects to, right? So it is still part of, like, the, if you want to call it the Snyderverse, whatever you want to call it, right? It is still connecting to all the past DC movies, all the Wonder Womans and Suicide Squads and all that. And that leads directly into The Flash, which does I think reboot is the wrong word, soft reboot, or maybe just sort of, you know, some things are going to be remixed and some things are going to stay the same. So it is essentially, for all intents and purposes, it is the same universe. It's just had its timeline kind of jumbled a little bit, you know, so some people are going to be younger, some people are going to have different lives entirely. So let's keep going.
And then to move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU. And
okay, so Blue Beetle, again, all 4 of these movies were already in production before James Gunn came on board. So, like, the fact that these, you know, were probably mostly done and they've already spent millions of dollars on them and they gotta release them to make some money back, right? It is that kind of thing where it's like, you know, if that was not the case, would he be saying something very different right now? Is he only kind of including these movies in his universe in a sort of weird way because they got to make money? Like, you see what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know. Let's keep going.
then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects.
Okay, so, and yeah, Aquaman 2, the last of the 4 projects that, again, they're essentially done already, and they got to make money back. Now, there were some other comments that I don't think he talks about in this video, where they're talking about how Ezra Miller is getting his act together. He's working on himself personally a lot, and supposedly there might be some conversations about him continuing or not later down the road, which, you know, I don't know how to feel about that. But there were also saying how Jason Momoa, they might very well do an Aquaman 3. So, like, you know, James Gunn, and again, there was, like, reports of how Jason Momoa was really happy, and he had, like, this whole conversation on the phone, and he put, like, this video on Twitter. He's like, yeah, I just had a meeting with James Gunn, it was awesome, you know, Jason Momoa doing his thing, right? So, yeah, the idea that he's getting an Aquaman 3, it kind of makes sense, I guess, you know, like, if they're saying how, like, we're doing a soft reboot with Flash, Aquaman's journey is essentially being left untouched, we're going to go ahead and do it a third one, it all starts adding up. Let's keep going.
Which I'm going to tell you about now. So, Peter and I, along with a group of very talented writers, have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, television, and gaming. This first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter.
Yeah, I feel like that's a point a lot of people have been missing. I've seen a lot of people reacting and be like, what, that's it? That's all the movie? Like, he literally says here, this is not even all of the first chapter. This is, so we're probably only hearing like 1/3 of what their, you know, phase 1 is gonna end up being.
The first project is Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes. Something we're going to do that's a little bit different at DC is we're going to have characters move into animation, out of animation, usually having the same actor play their voice as who plays them in live action.
Okay, so again, very much like Star Wars, how we have we have Ahsoka showing up in, her entire animated history, and then she shows up in Mandalorian, and now she's getting a live action show, and it is supposed to be the exact same character's continuity. It all happened to this same character, whether it's animated or live action. So he's doing a very similar thing here, which I'm really, really excited by. Like the fact that he has a plan, the fact that it seems cohesive, it seems purposeful. He seems to know exactly what he wants to do, and he's writing, a decent amount of these himself. That all gives me hope that, okay, this has a direction. More than anything, I want DC to have a direction. Know what you're doing and then do it, not just kind of aimlessly just spit things out. So, the first thing being an animated film or animated show, that's pretty cool that they're starting with animation. And it is canon. This is the first, okay, those other projects were already in production. Now here we go, and this is what I'm doing now.
Next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is going to team up with members of Team Peacemaker, and this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy.
Okay, so by the way, live action. Waller's live action, played by Viola Davis, teaming up with members of Peacemaker from the Peacemaker TV show. So, again, the Flash movie's acting as a soft reboot. Essentially, he's saying yeah, Peacemaker still happened. You can kind of smudge which Justice League members were there at the end, or maybe that no longer happens and everyone kind of their memories get erased of those last 10 seconds or something. But Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, I think at this point might be the longest standing Snyderverse survivor. You know what I mean? It's probably her and Harley Quinn who have they've stuck around, they've been consistent, they've been in many projects, both where they're directly there or where they're doing small cameos. Viola Davis's Amanda Waller is she's that person. It doesn't seem to matter what continuity, what universe, whatever. She is Amanda Waller, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, Peacemaker still counts. That's essentially the confirmation we get that there's gonna be more Peacemaker. Those characters are going to show up in this show, which obviously that makes sense because that that first season ended with them exposing Amanda Waller, right? So now I know you can ask well, she was also in Black Adam and she wasn't in jail, so how, again, Flash soft reboot. Black Adam, maybe Black Adam didn't happen at all. I don't know. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Who knows? We'll see when we see. Anyways.
Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol. It is a fantastic story that's out of this world, and I can't wait for people to see it. Okay, next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written by me. I'm in the middle of it.
Okay, so it's interesting that after all of that, after an animated series and a live action series, now he's saying this is the true beginning of the DCU. And I think all he really means by that is because it's the first film and because it's Superman. But yeah, let's continue.
I'm having a great time doing it. And Superman will be released into theaters July 11th, 2025. Okay, the next thing is a big premiere HBO television series called Lanterns. This is a story of a couple of Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, and we have a few other Lanterns peppered in there, but this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective with a couple of Green Lanterns.
Okay, see that's very, very exciting for me. Look, I've been a fan of Green Lantern stories for years at this point, and I've been wanting them to get Green Lantern right so badly, because there's just there's so much gold to mine out of the Green Lantern IP, and the fact that it just has not been accomplished yet is just it's crazy. This is a live action series, and I know that there was a Green Lantern Corps series being worked on for the longest time, and I feel like whatever that was going to be ended up getting morphed into what this will be. Because I think that one was going to be who did all the CW stuff. I think that guy was involved with that original Green Lantern Corps idea. I don't think that's a thing anymore. I think that we're getting this instead, which this sounds a lot cooler. But also, you know, hey, we get Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, so we're getting essentially both of the lanterns that most people want. You know, I know me and my brother are kind of like, we're big fans of Kyle Rayner, but you know, Kyle Rayner's kind of the he's like one of the lesser Green Lanterns that people often consider, but I think he's cool. But whatever. But there we go. So it looks like we're getting like an actual serious Green Lantern. Lots of stuff to mine from that.
Lanterns who are space cops watching over Precinct Earth. In it, they discover a terrifying mystery that ties into our larger story of the DCU.
Now, I feel like that right there is crucially important, because here's the thing about the Green Lanterns. Obviously, they're going to space, they're going to different planets, they're doing cosmic stuff, you know, like they interact with the new gods at several points, you know, stuff like that. So the fact that they're like uncovering some mystery that involves like the larger DCU, that's very important. I feel like that's what's going to end up leading eventually to our big Justice League slash Blackest Night slash whatever the big event is. This is where it starts with the Lanterns TV show.
Next is a big movie called The Authority. The Authority is a passion project of mine. It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters we are now bringing into the DCU and will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes.
Okay, so I don't know anything about the Authority and Wildstorm comics and all that. I didn't read any of that stuff. But that being the second movie that we're getting, that's really interesting. So essentially, we've gotten one animated show, a live-action Waller show, Superman movie, Lanterns TV show, and now the Authority. Which, you know, I know. Hey, I don't know anything about this. What's the point? Look. This is the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy, a team that, like, you know, 1% of people had ever heard of. So yes, he can make the Authority a thing, right? And I that's what you want from a brand, right? Like, they have so many teams and heroes that even people like myself who've read a lot of DC comics have never even heard of these guys, right? I don't know these guys. So being able to take those lesser known things and adapt them and make them really known quantities, that's what you want for a brand. You know, you want to raise the value of your things that are seen right now as lesser than, right? So
doing a television series called Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is the story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants of Paradise Island.
Okay, so another live action TV show. That's very interesting idea. So he did not say anything about Wonder Woman, you know, like other than she's born there, but like, so the whole idea of like, is Gal Gadot gonna be Wonder Woman still? The third movie was like rejected. Remember, that was the whole thing where Wonder Woman 3 was rejected. So it's like, I don't know who Wonder Woman will be. This show probably won't necessarily answer that question. I mean, I imagine this is more of like a building up the more mythological side. I feel like this is what they're going to use to pave the way to get characters like your, you know, your Olympian gods and stuff like that, and all your mythical monsters and stuff, right? Because again, this chapter is called Gods and Monsters, so like this is going to be a big part of that. So that's pretty cool, you know, like the idea of building out Themyscira, like get people to care about this, because you know, it's essentially always just been the background for Wonder Woman, right? Everyone's like, yeah, I know, it's that island where she comes from, but now it's like actually gonna be a place that I guess you care about, right? So that's pretty interesting. Here we go.
The introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line, and so this is the story of the two of them.
Okay, so, you know, another movie, our third movie now, right? Is a new Batman. So we're gonna have two ongoing Batmans. Okay, Matt Reeves is still going to have the Robert Pattinson Batman happening. And now we're going to get a new Batman also at the same time, which is kind of funny because a while ago, David Zaslav said something like, we're not going to have 4 Batmans, which technically still true. We're just gonna have 2, not 4. So, but the thing I really love about this is that we are finally gonna get a Robin in a live action Batman movie, because the truth is, it's like, all the past Batmans have had their ups and downs, and like, they've all had their qualities to them, right? But we have not had a Robin or an extended Bat family in a live action movie in over 20 years, right? And it's like, if you read the comic books, there's Robins and Nightwings and Red Robins and Batgirls and Batwings, and like, there's like a whole thing going on there with Batman and his extended Bat family, and it's a whole thing, and it's just completely been left out of live action movies for the last 20 years. And it's it's all because WB got scared back when they did Batman and Robin, and it almost Batman and Robin the movie, and it almost killed the property, and they got so scared that essentially they had this rule. I mean, I don't know if it was like an unspoken rule or if it was literally written down somewhere, that was like, no Robins ever, like, they thought Robin was the problem with that movie. So I'm glad that they're finally like, okay, yeah, maybe a Robin could be in this Batman movie, which, to me, a Robin not being in a Batman movie is like there not being an Alfred or a Commissioner Gordon, or, you know what I mean? Like, these are like the essential building blocks of his world, and it's just so weird that like they've left him off, and I think to a lot of casual moviegoers, Robin is considered like this joke, because it's like, what, is some kid? And they're like, well, yes, but that's how you get a Nightwing and a Red Hood, and like, that's how you get all these other characters. Like, that's how you build a Bat family. It's like, he trains them, and they're Robin for a little while, and then they, anyways. So I'm really excited about this one.
And the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU.
Yeah, that.
Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day and become a superhero.
Now, that is going to be hilarious. I like that's just perfect mining for comedy gold there. I think I've used that phrase already. Anyways, Booster Gold live action show. I've noticed that we've only had like one animated series so far, haven't we? We've had like nothing else but live action shows and movies. So I wonder. Interesting. Anyways, but yeah, another live action show, Booster Gold. That's that's gonna be hilarious. I hope what they do. I was reminded today that in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon back in the day, Booster Gold had this little robot friend. He's like the floaty little yellow robot guy, and he would like just talk to Booster Gold. And he was voiced by the same guy who voices Fry in Futurama. And I would love it if they got the same guy to do the voice again, and that the comedic beats would all work. It just, anyways, that's just my wish for that.
So that people will love him. It is basically the superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series. One of my favorite comic book series from last year was Tom King's run on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And so we're going to turn that into a big science fiction epic film. Now, Superman is a guy who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents, whereas Supergirl in this story, she is a character who was raised on a chunk of Krypton. She watched everybody around her perish in some terrible way, so she's a much more jaded character.
Okay, so I didn't even hear about this story. I don't know anything about that version of Supergirl. But to be honest, if this makes Supergirl a little bit more interesting and not just essentially just doing Superman's story over again, if she actually has like a whole completely different origin of her own, go for it. In fact, now I might look up this story because I have not heard of this. It seems like a relatively new one, so yeah, I'll actually go check that out.
And that brings me to Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about, a very dark horror story in the origins of the monster who is Swamp Thing. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU.
Okay, now real quick. So again, another movie. So Supergirl is a movie. Now this is a movie. Now, some people were saying he said totally outside. I think he said tonally outside. In fact, let me go ahead and put on my clothes. Yeah. Oh, it's totally outside. Is that what he said? Here we go. Let's rewind this again.
Outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed something. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed into the rest of the stories.
Okay, so that's something I'm kind of confused by. According to the closed captions, he says totally outside of the DCU. But my ears are telling me he said tonally, because it's a darker story, tonally outside of the DCU. Plus, he says it still feeds into the rest of the stories. So, what, he's not labeling this Elseworlds. He didn't say that. So, that's kind of a confusing one. If he said totally outside, then that sounds like it's not canon, but then wouldn't he have labeled this Elseworlds, right? Isn't that the whole point of Elseworlds? I don't know. I think he said tonally outside, not totally. Anyways.
Anyway, those are the stories that I can tell you about right now. I've loved the DC characters since I was a child. They're incredibly important to me. I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something very different. One of the things that's very important for me in all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us. And I want to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you watching. I hope this was exciting for you because it's really exciting for me. And I can't wait to start to dive into these stories.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much the end of it. Okay, so yeah, we got a good handful of movies and TV shows in one animated series, which is kind of interesting. I wonder why that's the only one that was animated and not done live action like all the other ones. Anyways, but yeah, I would say for the new stuff that they announced itself, I'm really excited by all that. It seems like he knows exactly what he wants to do. The Swamp Thing movie, again, I'm pretty sure he said tonally, even though the closed caption says totally outside of the DCU, and I don't know what he means by that. Does he mean in the way that Shazam is kind of like, it's not interconnected with all these other stories in like a cameo kind of way, or does he mean literally it's an Elseworld story, it's not part of the canon? Is that what I don't think that's what he's trying to say, but he could be trying to say that, I guess. And again, the only other thing about it is just like the fact that you got these 4 movies that were already deep into production by the time he was brought on, and he's kind of been forced to adapt them into whatever this new universe is. And because of that, it feels like there are chunks of this that are only a soft reboot. It feels like Aquaman is going to continue, Blue Beetle's going to continue, Amanda Waller and the his oh my god, what the guy from Suicide Squad, I'm blanking on his name. Anyways, John Cena's character. How am I blanking on his name? Anyways, it seems like that whole team's going to continue. He's going to do more seasons of that show. Oh man, I'm tired. But yeah, I think it just brings up that question of like, if these movies were not already deep into production, would he have just cut the cord completely and had a very clean reboot and very definitive, like, okay, none of that counts, and this is moving forward, this is the only stuff that counts? Because now what we kind of have is this situation where it's like, hey, you want to do a rewatch of the DCU as it is now? It's like, okay, so watch Shazam 1 and Aquaman 1 from the old universe, and I guess if you want to kind of understand what's up with the Aquaman, I guess you can go back and watch one of the Justice Leagues. Do you watch the Justice League from the theaters, or do you watch the Zack Snyder Justice League? But if you watch the Zack Snyder one, you're going to get this whole glimpse of a future that literally never comes to pass, because it's, the Flash movie happens and Flash was all, so it's like how do you even watch this? So it's like, that is the one thing that starting off literally before any of this has happened, none of this has happened yet, but like, Marvel just has a cleaner, like, watch Iron Man 1 and then watch everything moving forward. Like, sure, you have some TV shows that people still debate of, like, did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. matter, that kind of thing, but it's it's a little bit rocky, a little bit messy. For all I know, they're gonna like clarify this later on after these movies release, after these movies have gotten what money they can get. Maybe they kind of clarify, like, you know, what if they reverse course and they're like, actually, you know what, Shazam 2 and Aquaman 2 don't matter at all, we're completely ignoring those now that they've come out and they've made their money. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's stuff like that where it's like, you didn't call them Elseworlds, and why would you not do that? Are you not doing that because that would mean people might not go see them? Is that why you didn't do that? You know, it's stuff like that, which is kind of, I don't know. Those are just the thoughts that are going through my head. But overall, I'm excited for the future of DC, because even though it might be a little vague, it might be a little rocky, I still have a lot of questions. Peacemaker, that's the name I was looking for. Sorry, Amanda. Peacemaker still counts, and the Peacemaker's getting a second season. Wow, I couldn't remember his name. Peacemaker. Anyways, my point is, I'm excited that we at least have a plan. We at least have a direction we're going. It seems like he cares. Like, he definitely cares, at least. You know what I mean? He's not some you know, money cruncher, or not some guy who's like some high up executive who's just counting his money and just worried about, like, well, what's the audience reacting to? What's the audience like? No, he's got a story he wants to tell. He's got a way to tell it. He's built a roadmap. You know what I mean? Like, this is all the good stuff that I've been wanting them to actually do, you know? So, like, hopefully we enjoy the story that he's telling, but the fact that he knows what he wants to do, like, that alone is, like, something, you know? Because we've had so little from DC for a while, you know? We've had the occasional okay movie, but, like, that's not enough to hold a franchise together, you know? But yeah. Anyways, I'm excited for what's to come. I still have a lot of questions. Maybe they'll get cleared up, or maybe they're just kind of meant to be vague-ish, and we're getting like a soft reboot in some areas, but a complete reboot in other areas. You know, Batman and Superman are obviously being completely reboot, but Aquaman and Flash might kind of be not so much, you know? So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about everything going on here. Are you angry that Henry Cavill's not there? Or, like, are you still mad about that? Are you a Zack Snyder person? Are you still like, bring back the Snyderverse? I think at this point it's like, you know, I think it's safe to say that's not happening. Anyways, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.